Hey, what's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And I want to say welcome to the Black Financial Channel, where we talk about financial topics in the news from a Black perspective. It's brought to you by the Black Business School. If you'd like to learn more about finances and how to build wealth for your family, please visit theblackbusinessschool.com. That's theblackbusinessschool.com. Now, a lot of you who are investors, how you doing, Larry and Rainmaker? A lot of you who are investors have probably seen your portfolios take a hit recently due to the trade war between the United States and China. A lot of us don't know much about how these trade wars work, and that's where people like me can kind of step in and help you gain some perspective on it in terms of understanding what it can and can or cannot do to your portfolio, what it's going to do to the outlook of economics in the United States and beyond. So I wanted to take a second to talk to you guys about that. If you're not a stock market investor yet, I really hope that you consider investing in the stock market, because stock market investing is literally the number one way that wealthy people actually separate and reach the 1% or the 10% or whatever you're trying to reach. And so investing is really an important part of your economic plan, and I hope that you'll consider doing that. Hey, R. Robinson, how are you? I lost 15 this week. Oh, 15,000 or $15 or okay. I hope if you lost 15,000, that's okay. Just hang in there. It happens. You'll never make money if you're always afraid to lose money. The volatility got me in low beta stocks right now, says Rainmaker. Good. Okay, so you know what beta is. I love that. So let me hop in here and break this down. The Bloomberg did a great article today or recently about the trade war and the dynamics of the trade war. The thing about the trade war, as in all economics, is that it's kind of a multivariate kind of situation. It's not one of those things where give me one second here. It's not one of those things where you can just sort of look at one factor and say, oh, yeah, we're winning because of this. It's one of those things where you say, OK, we're winning over here, but we're losing over here. We're winning over here. We're losing over here. Now, one of the things that I can definitely say to you beyond any doubt that you should definitely walk away with for sure is that nobody wins when people are at war. In war, there is no real winner. There's usually only the biggest loser. And the person who was the least loser, or who had the least losses, I guess, the person who wasn't the biggest loser is the person who declares themselves to be the winner, when at least in the short term, everybody loses. So in this trade war, one conclusion I think most experts will agree upon is that everybody loses when these things happen. It's not good for the global economy. Now, breaking into some different dimensions into how you might measure almost a scorecard. And that's what Bloomberg did, and I thought it was a great idea. They start with the trade deficit. That's one area where the U.S. happens to be winning. The reason that Trump wanted to declare economic war with China largely is because the Chinese have been accused of kind of making these really lopsided deals with the rest of the world, where they engage in massive currency manipulation. The Chinese they actually practice a powernomics principle of basically saying, look, we want you buying everything that we make, but we're not going to buy much of what you make. We want our citizens to buy our stuff, but we want your citizens to buy our stuff too. Right. So it's almost like a bad relationship where somebody says what's yours, what's mine, what's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. A lot of people accuse the Chinese of doing that, including Trump, and he's not off base with this. He's not off base at all. When they look at the trade deficit with the U.S. The U.S.'s trade deficit with China has been pretty massive, but it's actually shrank as a result of this trade war. According to Bloomberg, they say for Trump, there's only one metric that shows whether the U.S. is winning or losing the economic scrum with China: the bilateral trade balance. The number still shows he's behind by a large margin, but the trade deficit with China has indeed narrowed in recent months. While economists debate who deserves credit for the recent shifts and whether trade balances are a useful metric at all, the U.S. gap with China was the narrowest in 3 years in March. So they give the U.S. credit for narrowing the trade deficit. I'm willing to bet, based on what I see in terms of how Donald Trump thinks, I'm willing to bet you that the trade deficit is probably the number one reason why he's declaring economic war with China. The trade deficit and also currency manipulation. Obama used to complain about the fact that the Chinese would deliberately deflate the value of their currency to boost their exports. And I won't go into like why that all works. There's a nuance, set of ideas that explains why that's true. But basically, a lot of people have been complaining about China for a long time. The difference between, say, Obama and Trump is that Obama is a person who understands the fact that everybody loses when there's war, right? So Obama is a peace guy. Obama's a guy who says, I know China's screwing us, but if we have a trade war with China, it's going to be bad. People are going to lose jobs. The economy is going to get hit pretty hard. So I don't want to do it. Whereas Trump is a guy who says, okay, let's rumble, let's fight, let's make it happen. And so he's more of a bull in the China shop, whereas Obama is a ballerina in the China shop. And the thing is that there's pros and cons to being the bull. There's pros and cons to being the ballerina. That's pretty much what's happening there, in my opinion. But believe me, they all agree that the Chinese have been engaging in what it would be called the doctrine of unequal exchange in powernomics. Doctrine of unequal exchange means that, when you and I are making a trade, you somehow walk away feeling like you got a raw deal, whereas I got a great deal. China's doing these really interesting deals all throughout the globe, particularly in Africa. They're real heavy in Africa because they are good negotiators. They understand Africans need cash right now. Africans need resources right now. So the Chinese are like, we'll give you cash right now. We'll give you resources right now. We'll give you expertise right now. But two things we're going to do, among many other things, two things we're going to do for sure is, one, we're going to make you pay a long-term price for short-term relief. You're going to get something that's going to make your government strong for the next 3, 4, 5 years. Everybody's going to be happy because they got a new road or new malls or a new railway system. But we're going to own a lease on that land for the next 100 years. They make 100-year plans in China. The second thing that the Chinese tend to do is they're not going to come in there and hire a bunch of your people to work on the project. Their thought is, look, we're here to take care of our people. That's it. And so we're going to build a railway in your country, but we're going to import 40,000 Chinese workers to get it done. We're not going to go hire a bunch of Kenyans. We're going to hire a bunch of Chinese people, right? The third thing that the Chinese do, I forgot about this, is they will give you fish, but they won't teach you how to fish. So they'll go to an African country and say, hey, we'll build you a railway and we're going to use our workers to do it. We're going to own the land for the next 100 years. And we're not going to show you shit. We're not going to teach you anything about how we actually are able to do these things. We're not going to train your engineers to maintain the railway after we're gone. We're going to maintain your dependence on us as the individuals that can either further the project or go in and fix it if something goes wrong, right? Which is it's a brilliant strategy on their part, but it's not beneficial to the African countries. So it doesn't mean the African countries are stupid for making deals with China. The reason I believe they want to make so many deals with China is because the Chinese are easier to deal with than the Americans. The Americans come with this self-righteousness that just really is irritating to the rest of the world, where they really believe that almost like they're the parents of the world. Like this white supremacy thing applies not just here, it applies everywhere. So the same way white people the white lady in the mall will tell you that, that you shouldn't spank your kids. Like she'll see you spanking your child and intervene and be like, you shouldn't do that with a child. Or the lady that shushed us when we were at the, Alicia and I were at a concert, and a white lady shushed us from 3, 4, 5 seats down, and Alicia stuck her neck out like you don't want none of this. Like it was the funniest thing, but the same thing happens on a broader national scale. The United States government loves to go around the world and tell people what to do. The U.S. government loves to go do business in other countries as an avenue through which they can violate that country's national sovereignty and tell them, we don't like your policy on gay rights. if you don't change your policy, we're going to take our money. We don't like your policy on feminism, and because we don't agree, we're going to take our money. So they just got tired of that shit. So the Chinese are like, we have a non-interference policy. Our policy means we don't give a shit what you do in your house. We just want to do business with you, and it's all good. So these African leaders are not stupid. It's sort of like Democrat versus Republican, lesser of two evils. That's what it is, I believe. They're like, look, we'll deal with the Chinese because it's easier to deal with the Chinese than to deal with the U.S. If I were any of those African leaders, I would rather deal with China than to deal with the U.S. The other thing, too, is that the Chinese are a little less fickle when it comes to the allocation of resources because they have a structure of government that allows them to actually get things done. The U.S. government is very, they're always fighting. They can't make a decision. They'll give you funding 1 year, and then a new president comes in, and then they take the funding away. So it's not dependable. It's not a dependable source of support. Whereas the Chinese are like, look, this is what we do. This is what we're going to do for the next 20 years. We in. Right now, although there are a couple of exceptions, which I can talk to you about later in a different video. If you want to actually follow up on some of that stuff, there's a couple of financial channels where I talk about financial topics. One is the Black Financial Channel, theblackfinancialchannel.com. That's where I discuss financial news and sort of break down analyses based on what I'm reading every day. So if you want to sort of follow financial news, follow what happened in the market that day, things like that, go subscribe at theblackfinancialchannel.com. Now, financialjuneteenth.tv.com. That is a platform I created primarily for more longer term sorts of economic lessons. So, for example, if I interview Dr. Claude Anderson or something, and we talk about Powernomics principles or something, we might put that on financialjuneteenth.tv.com. So yeah, it seems like I'm all over the place. Well, it's because I am, because I just love teaching, and I love connecting with my people, and I love talking about what's happening in the world and using the world as a classroom. It's really, really fun for me. And I don't know if it makes me look like a weirdo, but I personally think Black people need to learn. I think Black people, we all need to grow. I think Black people need to understand economics. I think we need to make money part of our culture, but we need to make it part of our culture in a way that is empowering and productive, and not in a way that's going to push us backwards. So feel free to subscribe, theblackfinancialchannel.com. Hit the thumbs up button, please. Please hit the thumbs up button. Okay, so let me keep reading. We're talking about the trade war and who's winning. The second category they threw in there is what they call bruised consumer confidence. That means having consumers that are a little bit fidgety, a little bit upset because the economy is not doing what it's supposed to do. Well, they said actually both countries gain a point because both of them bloodied the eyes of the other country's government in terms of consumer confidence. It says here, while U.S. consumer confidence rebounded in April, helped by a tight labor market and higher wages, retail sales growth fell for the second time in 3 months. It was a similar story in China over the same month, when retail sales growth slowed more than expected, denting the economy's biggest source of growth. For now, Americans generally aren't too pessimistic about their prospects in a trade war, but that could change if Trump follows through with his threat to put tariffs on all Chinese imports. So they said you can call that a draw, that it's evil, or excuse me, equal. I said evil. It's equal in the sense that both the U.S. and China have seen their consumers kind of get a little bit nervous and fidgety and less willing to spend. When consumers get nervous, they don't spend as much. When they don't spend as much, businesses tend to drop. So ultimately, that's an important idea. Now let's see. Someone, I'm looking here. Okay, Rainmaker, are you in class now? Juneteenth channel taught me to open my TD Ameritrade account. Oh yeah, that was when I did a video on how to buy your first share of stock. So feel free to check that out. I know about 1 million people watched that video. So literally, it's almost up to 1 million. Maybe it's 800,000 or something like that. And I was really happy to know that a lot of people benefited from that. In fact, actually, though, I also teach an investing masterclass. We meet every week at 8 p.m. If you'd like to join the class, all the recordings are available. All the PowerPoints are available. Extra materials are available. It's an excellent class that's better than a college class because I'm able to teach you things I couldn't teach students at Syracuse. So feel free to go check it out. It's drboycemasterclass.com. That's drboycemasterclass.com. Okay. So anyway, the next area, currency wars, whose currency has been hit the hardest and who's sort of, experienced the greatest consequences as a result of the trade war. Well, that's actually another draw that both countries gained a point and lost a point. So it's kind of a wash. They said the Chinese yuan has weakened about 7.5% against the dollar over the past year. This offers Chinese exporters an important cushion against Trump's tariffs. So basically, when the Chinese currency is deflated, they're able to export more easily because their currency is cheaper. And so there's various reasons why exporters benefit from a weakened currency. But the downside, though, is that when your currency starts to get too weak, you may have to prop that up. Like, you don't want your currency to get so weak because that can cause inflationary problems, right? Because think about this: you look at Zimbabwe, the currency is worth pretty much nothing, right? Because people thought, oh, well, the government thought, oh, well, if we have debt, we can pay off the debt just by printing a bunch of money. Well, you can't do that, because if something's in abundant supply, it drops in value. It's sort of like dating. If somebody is sleeping with everybody in the neighborhood, then suddenly it's not such a big deal to sleep with that person. Nobody respects that person as much as they did, because it's like, well, you gave it up easy to everybody else, so why should I value what you're offering me, right? So the same thing happens actually with currency. When currency is an oversupply, or things happen to weaken the currency, then ultimately that causes inflation, because you have to pay more. You have to give more of the currency in order to get, like, say, a loaf of bread or whatever the case may be. So ultimately, both countries' currencies have been hit, and both countries have sort of experienced pretty much equal impacts from the trade war. Now, the next category they list is diverging equity markets. Equity markets in both countries, meaning the stock market, slumped last year by the most in a decade. But China took the bigger beating. A 25% plunge in the Shanghai Composite Index was 4 times the drop in the S&P in 2018. More recently, the bulls have been unleashed in both nations. Yet the question is how long it lasts, with trade talks at a stalemate. For those keeping score, Chinese stocks are down almost 14% since the start of 2018. U.S. share prices are up by 6%. Score that to Trump. So they said the U.S. wins in equity markets, in that we lost, our stock market took a hit, but the Chinese market took a bigger hit. So again, it goes back to the fact that I'm just telling you guys seriously, if you want to have prosperity, you should aim for peace. Peace and prosperity are like brother and sister. When there's peace, there's things prosper. Like, look at a peaceful city. A peaceful city that's never had to have war and things like that. They build buildings and start businesses, and all these great things happen. But go look at video from cities that were hit by World War II. If you go look at those cities, all the buildings are torn down. None of the businesses are open. There's no such thing as being able to go look for a job. All you can do is go look for some damn food, because there is no such thing as a job. There is no currency and in an economy or a bank you can go to, things like that. So war typically causes economic devastation, and the Black community has a lot of economic devastation because we're always at war. The Black man is pushed to be at war with the Black woman, which destroys your first and most important economic institution, which is the Black family. The Black family is supposed to be your number one economic institution. It's supposed to be your employer. It's supposed to be your bank. It's supposed to be your source of economic security. But when your family is destroyed and is war torn, because the Black man and the Black woman have been trained to hate each other, then ultimately all your economic security disappears. Black mothers, Black single mothers have the lowest net worth of any group of people in America. Black single fathers are struggling because they're trying to pay child support, things like that. So they're falling behind, getting marginalized. So you have ultimate chaos and destruction. So if you want to know why I wrote books like Financial Lovemaking, I wrote Financial Lovemaking because I realized that if we are at war with each other, we cannot do business with each other. We did another film, Boyce Watkins Films, our film division. We did a film called The Black Love Blueprint. The URL is theblackloveblueprint.com. Why do we make theblackloveblueprint.com? Why? Because I wanted more people to have more sex? No, that wasn't it. This is not me giving you just, trying to just be like, oh, let's get relationship advice. Here's how you get it. Here's how you bag a chick, or here's how you bag the right man. That all those are emotional feel-good concepts. What I also think about is the long-term economic impact on your life from the fact that your families can't stay together, and that causes you economic despair. When everybody's struggling, why do you think that they make movies like Scandal, where they send? And it's so funny. This is where I take it broad. This is where I get you, hopefully get you to see the big picture. Why do you think that there are popular shows on TV like Scandal that show the Black woman realizing that her best relationship prospect is to be the side chick to the president of the United States? Well, they're subtly telling you in so many words that because the black man is so marginalized economically and the black family is so ripped apart and the black economic prospects are so limited, the best option for that white woman is to go chase after, or excuse me, for that black woman is to go chase after this white guy who's got a lot of money, right? So ultimately, the destruction of your family is also what causes everybody to have to spread out. You have a bunch of siblings, all of them have to go find their own benefactor. They all have to go find some white guy who will employ them and give them money because they can't get that at home, right? The reason other people have to take care of you is because your family and your community can't take care of itself, right? And so we got to fix that. So anyway, and also I want to almost apologize in advance to anybody who stumbled across this video and thought that I was going to give some race neutral analysis of the trade war. I can do all of that, but I'm not a finance professor who happens to be black. I'm a black man who happens to be a finance professor, and I like to lay that out there to let people know I'm black every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm black twice on Sundays. So if you can tolerate that and you're not black and you still want to get the analysis and you want to hear a black perspective, then you're welcome to be here. But if you're not, then you should probably go, because some of what I say is probably going to be surprising to you. All right, so let's keep going. Let's move on. On the URL, it's theblackloveblueprint.com, theblackloveblueprint.com. Next category, slowing economic growth. Who's been hit the hardest in the trade war between the U.S. and China due to slower economic growth? They said the U.S. actually wins this round. And why? Well, it's not because both countries haven't been hit. It's because the Chinese are being hit more than us. So let me read this to you. It says both economies are showing signs of weakness in recent weeks, but China's appears to be slowing at a faster pace. China reported that industrial output, retail sales, investment all slowed in April by more than economists forecast. In the U.S., along with weaker retail sales, factory production fell for the third time in 4 months. If tariffs begin to hit growth, Xi Jinping, the Chinese president, has more fiscal and monetary firepower to stoke demand than Trump. High corporate debt is tipping the balance in China toward greater use of fiscal policy, away from old reliance on ramping up bank loans to industrial firms. Trump doesn't have that kind of fiscal power. More winning for the U.S., but worth watching. So basically, they're saying that the Chinese are being hit the hardest, but the Chinese have more tools. The Chinese have more authority. Like, in fact, Donald Trump probably respects the president of China because he wishes he had a country where he could just kind of tell everybody what to do, right? Trump is not built to be a president of a democracy. He's built to be a dictator, of a communist country, right? I mean, that's just who he is, right? That's the kind of guy. That's how he operates. But I've given you guys what I hope you see as objective analysis of Trump. I've told you, like, some areas where they try to say, oh, he's a terrible businessman and all this other stuff. That's just liberals talking and being liberals and saying I hate everything about you. Trump is not a terrible businessman. In fact, his book, The Art of the Deal, written in the 1990s, was a bestseller because he was known for being such a great businessman. He became a terrible businessman when he became the president, right? Dr. Ben Carson is not a terrible doctor. He became a terrible doctor when he got into politics. That's why a lot of your favorite celebrities don't get into politics, because politics in America is very toxic, very divisive. But but when they say Trump's a narcissist, I say, yeah, he probably is. When they say he's not qualified to do this job, I say, yeah, he's probably not. When they say that he's a burden on the country, I say, yeah, he probably is. When they say that he's dangerous, I say, yeah, you're probably right about that, right? So there's some areas where there are some direct dings and accurate dings on the Trump presidency. But I encourage you to also listen to some of the people who support Trump, some of your friends who are Trump supporters, to try to understand, where they might be coming from. They remember, white supremacists weren't the ones that put Trump into the White House. I believe the Democratic Party put Trump into the White House. The Democratic Party put Trump into the White House the same way. If a man's wife goes and sleeps with another man, sure, she chose to go sleep with that man. She's responsible for that decision, but you can't pretend like there aren't things that man could have done to have even opened the door for that other man to sleep with his wife. Do you follow what I'm saying? It's all dynamic. There are multiple variables at play in every complicated situation. So let's move on. Falling foreign direct investment. This was very interesting. And now, foreign direct investment is investment that people make in your country from other countries. And the one area that they said the U.S. is losing, where the Chinese are winning, is that if you look at foreign direct investment from the U.S. to China, I think they said the U.S. invested. We invested 14 billion in 2017, and it went down to 13 billion last year. But check this out: Chinese direct investment in the United States dropped from 29 billion to 5 billion, right? And actually it was 46 billion the year before that. So 2 years ago, the Chinese were investing 46 billion into the US because they felt like they had favorable terms. It was a good deal. Now they've dropped that from 46 billion to 5 billion, which means that Chinese capital, that a lot of it, that 41 billion of it that used to come to the US now goes to other countries. And so and if you notice, the last couple of years is where you're seeing the Chinese propping up these investment projects all over the world. Now, investment is a double-edged sword, right? Sometimes investment is good, sometimes it's not, right? If you need the capital and the person that's investing with you, it has your best interest at heart, then investment is a wonderful thing, right? But if someone doesn't have your best interest at heart, you consider them to be a threat to national security, or they're just not good business partners, then you say, hey, I don't really want you to invest in me, right? That's why I tell you guys, you see these stories floating around the internet where people, they tend to go viral, where they'll say something like, 12-year-old black girl gets $10 million invested in her lemonade company. And everybody's like, oh, this is so great. Or Ray J selling, motorcycles or whatever, and it makes an $80 million deal to sell motorcycles. The interesting thing about that is that people read headlines. I don't really want to read the headline. I want to know the details of the deal. And, so it's an $80 million deal. What does that mean? Does that mean that they just paid him $80 million to promote motorcycles? Does that mean that they bought $80 million worth of motorcycles from him? Does that mean that they loaned $80 million to a company that they mostly own to make motorcycles? Like, what does that mean? What does an $80 million deal mean? There are a lot of nuances to that, and I don't think people pay attention to the nuances. And one of the vulnerabilities of the Black community that you have to be cautious about is that you guys take investment from anybody. You guys take anybody's money, and that puts you in a vulnerable situation that can end up putting you in economic slavery. One area where you take a lot of foreign direct investment might be considered student loans. Student loans are a foreign direct, or pretty much a direct investment. It's somebody saying, I will invest by giving you $200,000 worth of education, where you will go to this school and get this degree, and then you can then pay me back once you start making money because you have this new piece of paper. Well, what has that done for you? What has student loans done for your life? Yes or no? Tell me if you know at least one person who's been screwed by student loans. Tell me yes or no. Tell me if you know at least one person who, if they could go back in time and hand the degree back, trade the degree back for the repayment of all their debt, for the erasure of all their debt, would take that deal in a second. Yes or no? Does anybody know anybody else who rejects that, who sort of feels like, shit, I kind of got played, right? Well, that's an example of where investment can go wrong. You can't grow up, and you got to teach this to your kids. You can't grow up just taking anybody's money. You know this. This is something you've already known. Like, how many of you would want your daughter to be taking money from any guy that runs along and wants to buy her a new necklace or give her a couple of dollars, so she can go to the mall? How many of you would want your daughters, if R. Kelly is rolling through the neighborhood and R. Kelly is offering money for free lollipops and Gucci purses, how many of you would want your daughters to take that money, to take that investment? Right? You wouldn't want her to do it. You tell your daughter, don't take every man's money. Well, the same thing is true with the Black community. You can't take everybody's money, because sometimes that money's being handed to you by a pimp. Hit the thumbs up button real quick. I got to read a quick note that she wrote for me, and I'm a man. Men actually, our brains are not as good at multitasking. It's actually scientifically proven. So I'm not going to try to multitask. I'm going to read this note, and while you guys hit the thumbs up button. Also, if you want to get a notification when I go live, just text the term Black Wealth. That's 2 words, Black Wealth, to 31996, and I'll text you when I do financial topics. The term is Black Wealth to 31996. Also, we're on iTunes and SoundCloud, so download, look for my name on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can find us there. Hit the thumbs up button. So let me see. Let me know when you are ready to go to the next one. Okay. Are you gonna be out front right there?
Yeah, I'm just sit. Yeah.
Where I can see you?
I think so. Depending on where I can find it.
Okay. When you have your phone right, I can call you. Okay. All All right, sorry about that. Had to handle some housekeeping right quick. All right, so let's keep going. So we're talking about the trade war. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. Especially you guys on YouTube. If you're on the YouTube channel, please hit that thumbs up button. Let me see here. Let's keep going. Okay. Okay. So here we go. Okay. So the last category, following foreign direct investment, basically that's a point for China. If you consider direct investment from China to be a good thing for the United States, I personally became deeply concerned about how much Chinese money was coming, was coming to the U.S. I really was. I never felt like it was a good thing. I think that the Chinese are slick in that not that they're bad people, but they're very slick in that they can invade you and gut your ass financially because they understand when people have a hunger for money. And the United States is like a drug addict where money is our drug. And if you provide drugs to the drug addict, you can control the addict. And so capitalism, in the way it's practiced in the United States, where we're taking money from just anybody, turns us into basically economic whores to the world. And so I'm not a fan. Oh, Summer says black wealth didn't work. Typing it as one word, not two. If you type it as two words, it won't work. Typing it as one word. There you go. Okay, Summer got it. Okay, good. So anyway, so let me read the last part of this Bloomberg article. It's with Bloomberg. I have a subscription to Bloomberg. It's worth it. It's maybe like $1 a day or something, and I get these articles, and it notifies me when I get them, and they're all very, very good, very thoroughly written. And it says, as trade talks stall and the two superpowers further entrench their positions, a long road remains ahead. The results for now are somewhat of a mixed bag. The U.S. is ahead in some ways, while China has an advantage in others. Ultimately, though, everyone pays a price. Quote, in terms of economic growth, no one wins a trade war. In terms of geopolitical rivalry, what matters is who loses more, said Bloomberg chief economist Tom Orlik. The U.S. is betting that it will be China. China is betting that the U.S. won't have the stomach for the fight. And actually, right now, there's a really viral song going around in China where they're basically saying, like, screw the U.S. and we'll fight you. We'll fight you till the end and stuff like that. So they're pretty much ready. Oh, and one other area where the Chinese are winning, I skipped this for some reason, is increasing prices. They say critics say that Trump's tariffs will drive up prices for American consumers, but so far it's not happening broadly. Still, signs of trade war inflation are emerging in the world's largest economy. So when they put tariffs on Chinese goods, it means Americans they have to buy American goods, which increases prices. But remember, most of the time with economics, financial concepts, there's always a yin yang. There's always an extra catch. The answer to most financial questions is not yes or no. The answer is usually, well, it depends. Right. So before you answer any financial question, like if somebody says, hey, I'd like to give you $1 million, would you like it? Don't say yes or no. You're supposed to say, well, it depends. What do you want me to do to get that money? Right. Never. The answer is almost never yes or no until you have full information. So ultimately, when somebody says, the trade war and puts tariffs on Chinese goods, American consumers now have higher prices. Is that good for America or bad for America? Or should we be happy about that? Well, my answer is not going to be yes or no. My answer is going to be, well, it depends. It depends on what your values are. My value system personally is that America does not always benefit from globalization. We benefit in terms of wealth, overall aggregate wealth, because corporations are doing much better because of globalization. We can get our products and stuff made for almost nothing in Mexico and China and other places. But if you are a worker, then you've seen the last 25 years, American workers' wages have not increased. They've remained relatively flat. Well, why? Well, because now the companies that used to make cars in Detroit can now make those cars in Mexico. The price of the car goes down because they're making these cars cheaply overseas, right? So sometimes a higher price, in my mind, as a person who wants this country to do better, I'm happier to pay 2% more for a new pair of shoes because I know that those shoes might, if they're made in America, that makes me feel good. Yeah, I sound like some hillbilly, like made in America. I love my products, made in America, right? Well, I do because the same way I buy things that are made by Black people. I will pay an extra. Tell me yes or no, yes or no, yes or no. How many of you would pay an extra 5% on your products if they're all made in the black community. And let's say in the next 50 years, we get to the point where black people are making, black companies are making 80% of all the things that you need in your household. You got sites like We Buy Black and other places that sell all kinds of goods made by black people. And let's say you got a pair of socks, you can buy them for $10 at Walmart, or you can buy them for $12, at the flea market or at the black shop down the street. Which would you go to? Would you pay the little bit extra to have the products made in your own community? A lot of us would. A lot of us would. I know I would. And the reason you would is because you're saying, like, yeah, I'm paying a little bit more. It's a little bit of a black tax, but I don't mind paying the black tax if the black tax is going toward black coffers, if the black tax is going to the black community to help the black people out. I don't want to pay a little bit less to watch that whole $10 just disappear. I'd rather pay a little bit more and let my whole $12 circulate amongst my people, right? So the Chinese, the Americans, the black community gets this, the Chinese get this, America does not get this, which is why America is sinking. America as a country does not get this. America as a country says, well, if I got to pay an extra dollar for a Walmart, for a T-shirt that I could get at Walmart, for $2.50, then I'm pissed off. That's unfair to me. But if all your goods are being made in other countries and all that revenue is going out of the country, eventually your country gets drained. It gets sucked dry. So it's not usually always as cut and dry as I just described it to you, but that does describe in a broad sense, sort of what's happening. If you wonder where the good jobs are going, look at globalization. If you wonder where the high wages are going, look at globalization. If you wonder where job security is going, look at globalization. Globalization will be good for America if one thing were true. Globalization would be good for America if you went back and built the time machine and went back to the 1980s and you let old ass Bernie Sanders be co-president with Ronald Reagan. If Bernie Sanders and Ronald Reagan were working together as president, and maybe you throw a black person in there too, because we can't forget about black folks, right? And you had the capitalist influence being tempered by socialist moderation, then you could actually create a country where globalization is a good thing. What would that look like? Well, that would mean that if I'm a corporation and I'm pushing jobs all around the world, so I don't have to pay $30 an hour to a worker in Detroit, well, the benefits of the profitability that comes from the fact that I'm making the goods cheaper in other countries would be spread evenly amongst society, right? And so when I make the extra, 80 million or 100 million for my personal bank account that results from the fact that I've pretty much abandoned the American worker, I have to share more of that money. I have to pay taxes on that money so that everybody can benefit from the globalization. The reason globalization has not always been a good thing for America is because it looks like we're doing better because all the indicators say, look, we're wealthier, look at how much the GDP has grown, and look at the great prices we're paying, but nobody's talking about those poor workers in the Midwest, in Ohio and in other places who used to make cars or used to make steel, and now they don't have the prosperity that they used to have. Okay, so anyway, let me just jump out and just say, long story short, I think in this trade war, I think the trade war is necessary. Is Trump the right guy to push the trade war? I don't know. I know Obama wouldn't have done it. He's just not. That's not how he's built. Is Trump completely unqualified to win the trade war? I don't think that he is unqualified. I think he might be qualified. He's a fierce negotiator. Trump is a very tough man. He might be an asshole, but he's not a punk. But the other thing too, though, is that remember, in a war, there really aren't any winners. And that's the part that I think is important to understand too. So I know my portfolio got hit pretty hard by the trade war. I know a lot of you lost money during the trade war. And the best I can say to you is just keep watching the news, keep paying attention to what's going on, keep being consistent. And historically, consistency has always won the day. Okay, so that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that. A Golston says you're trolling with the Oprah comment, Doc. Yeah, I agree. It does sound like a trolly comment. On my Instagram, which is the real Boyce Watkins, which you should follow me on Instagram. We have interesting conversations there. It's the real Boyce Watkins. I was talking about Oprah and Oprah, how Oprah. I believe I really bet Oprah was taken aback when Robert Smith went and paid off the student loans of those Morehouse men. because Oprah does hokey stuff usually, like what she did when she gave a commencement speech this year in Colorado. She had a picture of herself smiling with a white guy, and she basically said something like, everybody in the crowd I shook everyone's hand, and I gave them all a copy of my book, and it's like that looks really corny after Robert Smith literally paid off their student loans. Like something that Oprah could do. Oprah could do it. She just, chooses to do other things with her money. It's her money. Who am I to tell her what to do with her money? But what I will say is this. I believe that every Black celebrity who speaks at an HBCU from this point on should be required to do something substantive for those young Black people who are graduating. I do believe that. Remember, I told you guys I'm Black first. That's how it's always going to be. But I believe that they should be required to create a fund or contribute to a fund that is going to go toward relinquishing the student loan debt of those young Black undergrads. So if Diddy rolls through, if Diddy wants to get crunk at the graduation and be Mr. Cool and all this other stuff, well, no, be Mr. Write a check, be Mr. Invest in your damn people, invest in these young people. Invest in them. Seriously, Diddy you go give us. You ain't got to pay 40 million. 40 million is a big tab, right? Robert Smith has so much money. He makes $40 million probably in a week or two. No, I'm not kidding. That's how wealthy this man is. But Diddy is a billionaire, right? So maybe Diddy can't do 40 million. Maybe he can do 10% of that. If you can't do 40 million, do 4. If you can't, or maybe you can do 8, maybe you do 10, maybe you do 12, but do something. That's the idea. Do something. Why is that important? It's important because we must invest in our young people. When we invest in the young people by removing, you see, let me tell you the blessing of these Morehouse men. It wasn't just like, oh, no, oh, shoot, I ain't got no student loans, man. No. The depth of the blessing to the Morehouse men is that these young men now can go through and do things that they never would have been able to do if they're saddled with tons of debt. A lot of people in the Black community want to start great businesses, but they can't because of their financial situation. A lot of them want to go create companies that will employ other Black people. They want to go and start foundations and youth centers that'll help Black children. They want to go and live out their dreams and the dreams of other people, but they can't because that student loan debt is all up their ass. And I, if I'm not mistaken, I got to double check this, but I believe even Joe Biden was part of the group of people that actually created the law that says that you can never escape student loan debt. You can't declare bankruptcy on student loan debt. I'm not sure Biden was connected with that. He's connected with the crime bill. I know that for sure. I got to double check the student loan thing, but I think Joe Biden might have been part of that, right? So they're stuck, right? So to me, if you really care about Black people and you're going to go give a commencement speech at an HBCU, then you should do some percentage of what Robert Smith did for those kids. The only two Black people who I've ever seen go to an HBCU and really put the hammer down in terms of doing something that's really substantive and significant and heavy are Robert Smith and Bill Cosby. They're the only two people who have given a donation to HBCUs of that magnitude. Everybody else gives donations that are symbolic in nature, not substantive. It'll be like $500,000 or which is nothing, and to an Oprah Winfrey, $500,000. I mean, that Oprah literally probably made $500,000 this morning, right? Like, so that's like you going out and giving, $40 to the local charity. Like, that's good. That's nice of you to do that. But it's like when people are on that scale where they have billions of dollars, like, think about this. If somebody's net worth is, say, $3 billion, that's 1,000 times having the net worth of $3 million. So that's like taking a millionaire who's worth $3 million and putting 1,000 millionaires in a room. Imagine, now, think about this. If you had 1,000 millionaires in a room and all 1,000 millionaires said, we all got together and we all put together our money and we're going to give you $500,000. That's all we could come up with. You would say, that's bullshit. What? No, that's not. Come on now. Seriously. So when Oprah has a net worth of $3 billion, you need to understand what that means. So when Oprah gives $500,000, let's say to an HBCU or something like that, that's the equivalent of a millionaire giving $500. Or it's the equivalent of a person who's worth $300,000 giving $500. So if a person says my net worth is $300,000 and I contribute $500 to that charity, you're going to say that's really nice if that's polite of you. but that's not the best you can do. Like you could probably do a whole lot better than that. Because people that have $300,000, can spend $500 and it's not, they spend $3,000 on a purse, right? So, or whatever. So anyway, my point is to say that I think any Black celebrity who speaks at an HBCU should, from this point on, be expected and required to make some significant investment in those young people that is going to lead to a transformation in their life that will relieve the burden economically and otherwise that is on them, that will allow them to then accelerate their pace toward building the future that we want our community to see. And in case you want to know what I'm thinking about Project 2070, where I told you guys that if I reach my goal, the goal that I have for, that we have as a group, our goal is that by the year 2070, the Black community, the African American community, will be the most financially literate group of people on the planet. And that's what's going to be the game changer for us, because we'll be able to go around and make amazing deals like the Chinese. Because remember, it wasn't that long ago when the Chinese were pretty much the niggers of the earth. The Chinese were disrespected. They got less respect than Black people get in America. They looked at the Chinese like they were a joke. The Chinese had no productivity. They couldn't get along. They couldn't build businesses. They had no prosperity. They weren't going around the world making all these deals like they're making now. People would have laughed at you if you said that the Chinese were going to be the economic leaders of the world by the year 2019. But what happened was the Chinese had some visionaries in their community who rose up above the bullshit, who said, we're going to make a 100-year plan for our people so that in 100 years, we will be economic leaders of the earth. Well, guess what? The Chinese are now in year 50 or 51 of that 100-year plan. So they ain't even halfway done with the HOVA. You remember Jay-Z did the whole thing, H to the Izzo, V to the Izzy. Well, they got some Chinese Jay-Z's who are like, we're going to do a takeover up in this mug, and it's going to take about 50 to 100 years, and they're only halfway done. So I want Black people in America and beyond, those who align with us, to have a takeover plan for the next 100 years. And by year 50 or 50 years from now, which would be about the year 2070, that's when people are going to start to look at Black people in a way that's envious, mainly because we're going to be so economically sophisticated and capable and intelligent and progressive that we're going to leave everybody else behind. And ain't no question about whether or not we can do it. We will do it. We will do it. We will do it. I have no doubt about that. So anyway, I'm going to go, guys. Hit the thumbs up button. Please hit the thumbs up button. Don't forget, we're on iTunes and SoundCloud, so you can download the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can also get Your Black World, but that's where Vicky Dillard appears as well. You can get that on iTunes as well. Also, my new book, Black American Money 3, just came out. So if you want to take a look at the whole series of Black American Money books, go to blackamericanmoney.com. That's blackamericanmoney.com. And a little bit later, I'm actually going to do some conversations on drboycetv.com. If you guys are subscribed there, I actually want to talk. We did a survey about Tamron Hall and the new baby she had, and I'm going to tell you guys about that. That's pretty interesting. It's going to be a good conversation. So I'll see you guys soon. Have a good day. Hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe. I'll see you soon. Be good. Peace.